we're going to focus in on the surgical EQing I did to remove resonances that we didn't want in the cymbal sound. So let's first of all listen to the cymbal without the EQ, and then we'll listen with the EQ, so hopefully you can hear how much we've cleaned up the sound. This is without. And with the EQing. See how much flatter it is and how much cleaner it is? If I turn this off and on as it's playing, you should be able to hear the difference quite clearly. In fact, if we loop this section of EQ'd cymbals, we'll just loop that, turn the loop brace on. If I turn this off and on, you should definitely hear the difference it makes. It's the sort of thing I found when I first started doing this style of EQing, that I didn't necessarily know what I needed to clean up until someone showed me, well, this is what a properly EQ'd cymbal looks like. So yeah, let's turn it off and on and show you. See how much flatter and cleaner it is with that EQ? We're doing two types of EQ. We are high passing or low cutting all that low frequency rumble out of there that we don't need. All that low frequency information below 350 Hertz isn't contributing in any useful way to the sound of the cymbal. The sound of a cymbal are those mid and high frequencies, not that low end rumble. So that's what this steep high pass filter is doing. And all these other nodes, 2, I think that's 5, 3 and 6 are doing conceptually the same thing, just on a different individual resonance. So let's focus in on one in particular that by far the easiest to hear, and that is number 3, which is this big one. As I turn it off and on, you can see it's quite a big EQ divot into the actual spread of frequencies. So chances are, until I actually show you the before and after as it's playing, you might not even be able to hear, just listening to the uneq'd cymbal, what resonance needs removing. So let's see if you can. It's a good test. So this is without the EQ there. So notice 3 is turned off. See if you can hear, or possibly even see in the spectrum analyzer underneath this EQ, what resonance needs removing. You might not hear it, but I guarantee you once I turn this off and on as it's playing, all of a sudden your ear will become attuned to what frequency that is, and all of a sudden you will definitely hear it. So let's show you, it's pretty cool. See how it's that whistling sound, and all of a sudden once you remove that whistle, it just sounds so much flatter and more neutral and more like a clean cymbal. It sounds great. One more time, because I think it's quite pronounced. So conceptually what we're doing, we're removing that whistly resonance, so we have this clean, flat spread of frequencies, which makes our nice flat and neutral cymbal sound. And in terms of how do we know, well, let's just say we didn't know that it was that particular frequency we need to remove. Well, when we just load up a blank EQ, how do we know what kind of surgical EQing we need to do? How do we know what frequency we need to remove, or if we need to remove a frequency at all? Well, there's 2 approaches to doing this. One is using your ears and one is using your eyes. And ideally, if you use a combination of the 2, it's a little bit easier. So the way that involves using your eyes is you simply grab, say, this node here, this 3rd node, and what you do is you look at the spectrum analyzer and you see if you can see a peak, some sort of big resonance, some spike in the spread of frequencies that looks like it doesn't quite belong. So I can see at a glance that these 2 peaks here, this giant range, looks a little bit out of place. I mean, it's not super out of place, but it definitely, to me, looks a little bit out of place. And that's why there's at least a clue that we might need to remove it. But the other way that involves using your ears is probably more standard, and that involves basically doing the opposite of what you want. So you boost frequencies and you sweep through until it exaggerates a particular resonance, and then all of a sudden you know what that resonance is, and then you can go the opposite way to remove it. I'll show you what I mean. So what we do, we play it back through, we sweep along until we find the resonance. Let's say our ears know roughly what resonance we need to remove. We sweep it along until we find what we need. And then we know that it's this giant peak here. We can then confirm it with our eyes. We found the peak, and then we just do the opposite. So we can either just pull it down, or once we've lined it up, we can grab the gain parameter and just reverse it. And there you go, we've removed that resonance. Now that was quite a big resonance. These other little ones certainly aren't as pronounced, but they are certainly there. It takes a bit of experience and a bit of an ear to become quite attuned to all these resonances, but certainly if I turn them off and on, you should be able to hear the difference they're making. That's a subtle one. That's again a subtle one. And this one's quite subtle too. Actually not as subtle. That one jumps out a lot more than the first two I showed you. And there you go, that is how we do surgical EQing.